Hello, everyone. This is my second Think Aloud. This is, again, an example of what you are going to be doing as well. So, this is chapter 3 of 1984, and the thoughts that I'm having as I'm reading are completely new and original. I have not read this before. I have not taken notes on this, and I don't quite know what to expect. In full disclosure, like I said previously, I did read this book probably about 10 years ago, but that's a long time to forget stuff. So this is chapter 3 of 1984, and I'm using the editing features that are right in the PDF document that you guys have access to. So Winston was dreaming of his mother. Whenever you bring in a mom, it's probably somewhat important. And if you go from a Freudian standpoint, dreams are often very significant. And we know that just psychoanalytically, dreams oftentimes have meaning. Whether or not that's true for our real life, who knows? But in literature, for sure, dreams often are telling us something. And if you picture this as being part of a movie, per se, you might even have this person fall asleep and then he starts dreaming something. In this type of book, probably not going to be that good of a dream. It's probably going to be sad. I'm expecting it to be. I'm expecting that his mom's dead. I'm expecting that he probably doesn't have much family because he does live alone and he hasn't mentioned it yet. But let's read on. He must, he thought, have been 10 or 11 years old when his mother had disappeared. So it's interesting there that it's saying that she disappeared, but not necessarily died. So we don't know. Is she alive? So I'm going to put here dead. I have bad handwriting. Deal with it. She was a tall, statuesque, rather silent woman with slow movements and significant fair hair. His father he remembered more vaguely as dark and thin, dressed always in neat dark clothes. Winston remembered especially the very thin soles of his father's shoes. I wonder why. I wonder if he was being disciplined by his father with the shoes. I don't know. And wearing spectacles. The two of them must evidently have been swallowed up in one of the first great purges of the 50s. So here Winston's giving us more history into what has gone on in this society, especially because it's saying the first great purges. So that's definitely something that's should be highlighted, right? One of the first great purges of the 50s. Now, for me, I think it's interesting that he's remembering his mother more fondly than his father. And I also think that there's some hints being given here that they might not be dead. It said that the mom had disappeared, but also then it said the two of them must evidently, right? That's almost like he's saying, oh, they must have, or apparently they had been swallowed up. So I wonder what they did. I wonder if they were opposite of the other people, if they were more part of a rebellion. And so that's going to be interesting because maybe Winston's rebellious side is ingrained in him through his parents. At this moment, again talking about the dream, his mother was sitting in some place deep down beneath him with his young sister in her arms. He did not remember his sister at all. Super sad. I'm going to highlight that, put a little frowny face because that is sad. Except as a tiny, feeble baby, always silent, with large, watchful eyes. Both of them were looking up at him. They were down in some subterranean place, the bottom of a well, for instance, or a very deep grave. So I don't know what's happening right here in his dream. This is some crazy stuff. He's with his baby sister apparently, and she's not speaking. She's just staring at him, and they're in either a very deep well or part of a grave. So definitely more stuff about death, right? So this dream is not a pleasant dream. But it was a place which, already far below him, was itself moving downward. So this thing's getting deeper and deeper. They were in the saloon of a sinking ship, looking up at him through the darkening water. There was still air in the saloon. They could still see him and he them, but all the while they were sinking down, down into the green waters which in another moment must hide them from sight forever. Pretty sad. He was out in the light and air while they were being sucked down to death. So you see this opposition here, juxtaposition. He is alive, right? He put alive while the rest of them, they are, it seems like, dying or drowning, right? And they were down there because he was up here. I'm gonna put a question mark on that. Why does he feel like it's almost like he's responsible? That seems to be what he's saying there. He's he's up on the ship and can breathe while the rest of his family is uh, presumably titanicking down, and he believes that they're down there because he was up there. He knew it and they knew it, and he could see the knowledge in their faces. That might actually be worse if this is actually true, or if something like this happened. It might be worse that they both knew it and that it's this knowledge aspect that hurts the most. There was no reproach either in their faces or in their hearts, only the knowledge that they must die in order that he might remain alive, and that this was part of the unavoidable order of things. Why? Why is this unavoidable? Why is this the order of things? How come death has to happen? We know before, when we read Frankenstein, we said that mankind often uses technology to intervene in our mortality. This kind of makes me think of that. But in this case, he's saying it's unavoidable that nature or the universe is going to have its way, and mankind cannot do anything about it. So it is definitely a confusing little segment here, but I think it's pretty telling. I think that his dream definitely is important to this book, showing us his family after he had just met kids and another family, and after he wrote more in that diary. So very peculiar, but this whole idea of they have to die so that he might remain alive, I don't know why. Is that his way of feeling? Is the narrator here, this third person omniscient narrator, just telling us what Winston is thinking and feeling in this moment? Or is this actually the case, that they actually had to die that he might remain alive? So we go on. He could not remember what had happened, but he knew in his dream that in some way the lives of his mother and his sister had been sacrificed to his own. All right, so we know that it's still a dream. It was one of those dreams which, while retaining the characteristic dream scenery, are a continuation of one's intellectual life, and in which one becomes aware of facts and ideas which still seem new and valuable after one is awake. So it seems like this is a confusing passage, but it seems like he's saying that although it's a dream, there's some truth to it. So I'm going to write truth to this. I should be using my touchscreen, but instead I'm using my mouse. Because he is saying that, yes, there's dream scenery, but it's a continuation of one's intellectual life, of actually thinking throughout the day. The thing that now suddenly struck Winston was that his mother's death nearly 30 years ago had been tragic and sorrowful in a way that was no longer possible. Why? Why is this no longer possible? Tragedy, he perceived, belonged to the ancient time, to a time where there was still privacy, love, friendship, and when the members of a family stood by one another without needing to know the reason. So this kind of goes back to when he was in that house and he was talking about all those kids and how kids can actually be a danger because they'd be some of the first ones to rat out the parents of doing something wrong. So pretty interesting. His mother's memories tore at his heart because she had died loving him. Okay, this is getting deep. When he was too young and selfish to love her in return. Oof. I'm gonna highlight that just because I love the way that it's phrased, and it really cuts deep because that's kind of true too. And because somehow he did not remember how she had sacrificed herself to a conception of loyalty that was private and unalterable. So I don't quite know what that part means, at least not yet, but this whole idea of this is really hurting him more. Notice it's talking about his mom and not his dad. And he was too young and selfish to love her in return. And isn't that true? Yes, kids love their parents, but when you are younger, you're just selfish. You're more selfish. It doesn't matter if you grow out of it or not. The fact is, kids are almost inherently selfish. That's why if you put two kids together playing with Legos, they're going to get into a fight. No, I want that Lego piece, right? So this makes me think of that, but it's also really sad because now he's as an adult who can be more unselfish, like helping his neighbors. He's thinking back and he's saying his mom loved him so much and he was not able to reciprocate that love very much. It's sad. Such things, he saw, could not happen today. Today there were fear, hatred, and pain, but no dignity of emotion, no deep or complex sorrows. All this he seemed to see in the large eyes of his mother and his sister looking up at him through the green water, hundreds of fathoms down, and still sinking. So, this is still confusing me a bit, this entire passage, because I don't get why there's no dignity of emotion and why there's no sorrow. Because it seems like this should be a very sorrowful time, right? But why no sorrow? I mean, they're living in a terrible age, an age where you cannot really communicate with each other, where people are scared of their own thoughts, where the government is in control of everything. So I'm wondering right here through this whole passage is why does he feel like the sorrow that he had when his parents passed away nearly 30 years ago can't happen anymore? Where was this disconnect in society? Now, notice that there is some juxtaposition towards the end here, where today there's fear, hatred, and pain, but no dignity of emotion, whereas before there was privacy, love, and friendship. So it's kind of paralleled there as well, and there was loyalty. So maybe it has to do with that, where families aren't loyal anymore. And because you don't have that loyalty, you don't have the connection to people. So his dream means a lot. I'm going to leave you guys to do the rest here, but I gave you a couple pages of kind of what you can do. Mine's certainly much longer than what's required for you, but this is active reading. This is thinking through ideas. This is connecting with the work, sometimes with dumb comments, sometimes with things that are aha moments and epiphanies. So best of luck to you.